Something is brewing between America and Canada, and it's showing up loud and clear in tourist statistics. Canadians are turning away from traveling south for the seventh month in a row, and the size of the drop is record-breaking in years. The latest figures paint a dire picture. Cross-border auto travel has fallen nearly 40%, and air travel has decreased more than 25% from last year at this time. That isn't a few empty airplane seats or a bad weekend at the border. This is hundreds of thousands of absent travelers. Airports, roads, hotels, and erstwhile popular vacation spots are being impacted by the absence. And don't kid yourself for an instant that this is your typical slow summer or one-time slumping season. It's part of an emerging trend that's hitting U.S. tourism where it's most painful, especially in border states and large cities that once gorged on Canadian visitors. From remote Montana to the neon glow of Las Vegas, the impact is undeniable. Behind closed doors, the reasons are complicated. Political stress, economic opposition, and growing indignation from ordinary Canadians. Taken together, they're pushing some to call it an unofficial, but very effective, travel boycott. But here's the catch. One's not only speaking of vacations or shopping weekend jaunts. It's two nations separating themselves inch by inch, billions in tourism dollars left behind, and the quiet but powerful ways that national pride manifests itself in individual action at the border. So why now? What sparked this pullback? And is it about to get worse? In the next few minutes, we'll unpack the hard numbers, explore the real-world consequences, and break down what it all means for both sides of the 49th parallel. If you're into current affairs, global economics, or even just curious about travel trends, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss where this story is headed. Let's jump in. This is not a freak dip or a seasonal variation. It's flat-out trend. For 7 straight months, the stream of Canadians crossing into the U.S. has slowed, and the drop now stands at a level that cannot be ignored. Statistics Canada's recent numbers speak for themselves. In July 2025 alone, cross-border car travel dropped by 36.9% from July 2024. That's hundreds of thousands of cars that would have otherwise been filling up at American gas pumps, reserving rooms in hotels, scoping out outlet malls, and taking selfies at national parks. Just absent. And here's the kicker. It's not only the roads that are less crowded. Air travel also has the same story to tell, and it's just as dramatic. Flights between Canada and the U.S. have dropped through the floor, and return trips by plane have declined 25.8%. And let's remember, summer is tourist season. To put that in perspective, this July, just over 383,000 Canadian air passengers flew back home from the U.S. Compare that to more than 500,000 making the same journeys last year. That's not just a slip, it's a freefall. These are not chilly statistics. They're warning signs, bold indicators that something has fundamentally altered the way Canadians perceive migration across the border. And the explanations run much deeper than an appetite for alternative beaches or cheaper airfares. One of the single biggest forces behind this decline isn't holiday bargains, it's politics. In January of 2025, the American government imposed a series of new tariffs on Canadian imports, hitting the country's core industries including lumber, aluminum, and milk. Officially, it was framed as part of a bid to stem economic dependency. But on the other side of the border, the reaction was immediate and wrathful. The Canadian government wasn't going to sit back passively. They counterattacked with tariffs against American-made goods from ketchup to motor homes. But this wasn't tit-for-tat government tactics only. Something was seething in ordinary Canadians. What started as a trade war quickly turned into an outright consumer revolt. On social media, the hashtag #BoycottUSA was trending. Thousands pledged to boycott American products, cancel travel south, and spend their dollars here at home or in countries they feel treated Canada more kindly. To some, it wasn't about economics anymore. It was about principle. Why, they asked, should we assist a nation that is willfully going out of its way to make things tougher for our businesses and communities? That annual family trip to Florida or last-minute weekend in New York was no longer just a vacation. It was a political gesture. And overnight, U.S. tourism fell victim in a much larger cross-border row. As the Canadians redirected their travel dollars into Europe, Asia, or travel within the country, whatever they left behind in the U.S. was staggering. Canadian tourists alone spent over $25 billion USD in America during 2024, paying for hotels, restaurants, attractions, gas stations, theme parks, and malls, most of all in border states like New York, Michigan, Minnesota, and Washington. So here's the million-dollar question. When millions of those travelers suddenly disappear, what does one do next? The solution is straightforward. The answer is simple and chilling. When millions of Canadian visitors disappear, it hits American businesses fast, hard, and collectively. Hotels report below normal occupancy rates, restaurants are filled with vacancies, and once prosperous attractions relying on Canadian tourists suddenly face cancellations and declining revenues. Small border communities, which relied heavily on tourist volume, are feeling the hurt as much as major cities like New York, Chicago, and Las Vegas. The ripple effect doesn't stop at tourism. Gas stations, outlet malls, and even national parks lose business. Local economies that made a living off of cross-border spending are now fighting to adapt. Tourism sector jobs, anything from hotel employees to tour operators, hang in the balance as the flow of Canadian visitors slows to a trickle. And yet, despite these concrete repercussions, the trend does not seem to be changing. If anything, political tension, social media campaigns, and continuing frustration among Canadians suggest that patterns of travel might remain depressed far into the future. This is not a story of dollars lost. It's a story of relationships fraying. Canada and the United States share one of the world's longest borders, and yet these statistics hint at a wider gap. Economic tension, political disagreement, and shifting popular opinion can turn everyday travel decisions into acts of principle. So what's next? Will Canadians travel back slowly once the heat dies down, or is this a new, permanent shift in the ways that the two countries interact? For American policymakers and businesses, the stakes are huge. With each month fewer Canadians cross the border, billions in revenue walk away, and with each day that passes, the task of restoring that trust grows more difficult. In the end, this is no ordinary story about travel volumes. This is a story of the nuance of global diplomacy, involving the impact of consumer influence and the very real economic consequences that follow when two neighbors drift apart. To most Canadians, however, motivations for choosing to remain home go well beyond economics and politics. Concerns about crime, gun regulations, and social chaos are weighing on travel arrangements. Others merely have found more pleasant, lower-priced, and more welcoming options, whether in Europe, Mexico, or even closer to home in Canada itself. A recent survey shows how far the plunge has gone. Just 38% of Canadians now see the U.S. as a warm and welcoming country, the lowest number in over 2 decades. It's not all about money or policy, it's personal. And once an emotional connection is broken, it's never simple to mend. Though politics may be the subject du jour in headlines across the country, true economic hardship is being experienced in the small cities and border towns that have been subsidized for years by Canadian visitors. Plattsburgh, NY, Bellingham, Wash, and Whitefish, Mont, are just a few cities that have prospered on Canadians making the trek across for a weekend getaway, outlet shopping weekend, ski weekend, or just to fill up. But during the summer of 2025, those streams have dried to a trickle, and shock is being felt across the board. Small businesses within these communities are seeing revenue drops of 20 to 40%, leading many to reduce seasonal staff, shorten hours, or in a handful of cases, close up shop altogether. Tourist commissions across the northern United States are scrambling to update marketing promotions, but nearly all admit off the record, "We didn't see this coming." In Montana, one local business owner bluntly stated, "It's as if Canadians disappeared overnight." Campgrounds, restaurants, and gift shops near the Glacier National Park are ominously quiet this August, a month that otherwise would be their peak month of the year. Meanwhile, Canadian rental listings are sky-high in border states, as homeowners struggle to fill dates previously sold out just months before to loyal Canadian customers. And it's not just a bad summer, it may be something far more sinister. Economists say if the trend continues, regional economies may experience recessionary consequences by the end of the year. This is not merely a slump in tourism, it's a warning sign. The cracks in U.S.-Canada tourism are widening, and the ripple effects are growing more powerful each month. If you'd like to stay ahead of the curve with reports like this, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. There's plenty more in store for you, and you won't want to miss it.